The vast and enigmatic ocean teems with life, balancing beauty and danger beneath its glittering surface. From the relentless pursuit of great white sharks to the lightning-fast strikes of mako sharks, its inhabitants inspire awe and caution. Tranquility can quickly become a fight for survival for those who dare enter these waters. Today, we delve into 6 harrowing tales of marine life encounters where humans faced the raw power and primal instincts of the ocean's most formidable predators. Jeffreys Bay in South Africa was booming in July 2000, attracting surfers worldwide to its renowned waves. Long regarded as a sacred site for those who dared to brave the ocean, this famous surfing spot is well known for its ideal right-hand point break. However, beneath its beauty, the waters concealed a darker threat that the locals had long discussed. Not only were the great whites a common sight in this area, but they also ruled the deep. A 326-pound professional surfer from Sao Paulo, Brazil, Maria Gonzalez had flown to South Africa with the sole intention of riding the waves of Jeffreys Bay and demonstrating that her size would never define her skills. Maria had long been the target of both awe and derision in professional surfing. Despite being a target for critics, her size, which was unusual for the sport, made her a symbol of body positivity. She was unfazed, and her passion for the sea and the rush of surfing waves outweighed everyone else's viewpoint. She was 34 years old, had traveled the world, and had competed in all the major surfing competitions. However, Jeffreys Bay was the one location she had yet to master. Maria had a typical morning before the attack. She was alert and focused on the task when she woke up early despite her stiff body from the lengthy flight. The chill in the air was evident as dawn broke, and the sky was a rainbow of pinks and purples. Although it was colder than usual during the South African winter, she could not resist the allure of the ocean. It was predicted that morning that the waves would be enormous, and Maria was up for the challenge. Her board, a robust, specially made item to support her weight and withstand the most challenging circumstances, was waxed. Maria knew that she would require all of her strength to navigate the strong swells known to occur in Jeffreys Bay. Except for a few local surfers who had already entered the water, the beach was largely deserted at this hour. The waves came in steadily, and the wind was light, making it ideal for the more experienced. Her thoughts were evident as she paddled out. She was almost meditating with the rhythmic sound of her arms cutting through the water. Even though she had done this 1,000 times before that day, it felt unique and different in a way she couldn't quite explain. Despite the large waves, the ocean was calm, so Maria took a moment to unwind and relax her muscles while waiting for the ideal wave. It arrived, and it was magnificent. With a force that sent a jolt of adrenaline through her veins, a tall wall of water curved into the ideal shape and approached her. With her heart racing in her chest, Maria positioned herself and paddled hard to catch it as the wave lifted her board. She stood with her legs straight and her body moving in time with the rhythm of the waves. She felt unbeatable for those fleeting, thrilling seconds. However, what transpired next would alter Jeffreys Bay's serene beach forever. Something enormous swiftly and terrifyingly moved from the depths. Maria was thrown off her board and into the air by something that slammed into her from below. This was her first sensation, not pain. She struck the water hard, confused, her mind racing to process what had happened. Although she had no time to react, the image of a shark briefly crossed her mind. The great white attacked again before she could surface, encircling her left leg with its enormous jaws. It was impossible to imagine the predator's size. It was the largest great white ever observed in the area, measuring more than 20 feet long. Both researchers and fishermen had been baffled by this beast. Maria's leg was crushed immediately due to the bite's tremendous power. The surf was transformed into a crimson nightmare as blood filled the water. When her survival instincts took over, Maria thrashed in the water to escape the shark's hold. But as it dragged her farther below the surface, the predator was unrelenting and gave her violent shakes. She was in so much pain that she could hardly comprehend the horror of what was happening. In a deadly struggle, she was unable to win. Her body was submerged in water, drowning out her screams. A few bystanders on the beach stood motionless in disbelief. One local fisherman who had witnessed many shark encounters, Thabo Mthembu, was one of them. Even he, however, had never seen anything like this. He was briefly immobilized by the shark's enormous size and the force of the attack. Though he knew in his heart that it was too late, he fumbled for his radio and called for assistance. Maria wasn't feeling as strong. She had died in the ocean, which had once been her haven. With a finality that made the result obvious, the shark bit into her torso once more after releasing her. As the predator swam away, dragging her into the depths, her body went limp, and the strength left her. The water was again eerily calm when rescue boats arrived. As a silent reminder of the atrocities that had taken place, Maria's board washed up on the shore, shattered in two. Witnesses to the attack stood in stunned silence as the truth of what they had witnessed gradually dawned on them. Maria Gonzalez, the bold Brazilian surfer who had come to master Jeffreys Bay's waves, was no longer there. The news of Maria's passing swiftly gained international attention in the following days, making headlines everywhere. Many praised her as a hero for defying expectations and breaking boundaries. However, the memory of the attack would never go away for those who were present that fateful morning. The image of the Great White would be a lifelong haunting for Thabo, the fisherman who had watched helplessly from the shore. Knowing that the waters of Jeffreys Bay were not theirs to conquer, the local surfers who had previously been so eager to test the waves now approached the ocean with a newfound sense of caution. Even though Maria's Brazilian family would never fully get over the loss, they found comfort in the knowledge that she had passed away doing what she loved. Her greatest passion had always been the ocean, which ultimately claimed her. Maria Gonzalez, the 326-pound surfer with a steely heart, would live on in legend forever, linked to Jeffreys Bay's lethal waters. But as a reminder of the uncontrollable force of nature, the Great White remained elusive, vanishing into the depths. Captain Robert Jenkins, renowned for his reckless love of the ocean and stoic manner, set out on his last solo expedition in the summer of 1997. From Durban, South Africa, the journey started and ended in Mumbai, India. Although Jenkins had been at sea for almost 40 years, navigating dangerous waters and enduring various storms, his maritime career would end on this voyage. This would be his final voyage before hanging up his captain's hat as he had promised his wife, Eleanor. As Jenkins prepared, the harbor of Durban, teeming with fishing boats and cargo ships, throbbed with activity. His ship, the Silver Crest, was a 45-foot sloop that had seen the test of time and adventure. As time passed, Jenkins began to have faith in the old boat, frequently stating that it was more reliable than most men he knew. However, the vast and enigmatic Indian Ocean presented risks for which neither his years of experience nor his reliable sloop could adequately prepare him. Known for its hazardous wildlife and erratic weather, the Indian Ocean, which connects Africa and Asia, has long been a thoroughfare for traders and adventurers. Jenkins had previously navigated these waters, but never by himself or with the sense of closure that accompanied this journey. He had planned to steer clear of the pirate-infested waters off the Horn of Africa and head northeast. However, as every sailor knows, no plan could withstand the ocean's whims. Jenkins was sailing under a clear sky with the sun glinting off the blue waves 3 days into the voyage. He found solace in the boat's steady creaking and the salty scent of the air as the wind remained constant. But the wind started to change by nightfall. As the barometer plummeted, clouds began to gather on the horizon. Jenkins anticipated a storm. Even though storms were never enjoyable, he was confident weathering them because he had experienced them before. The storm was fully formed by the early hours of the following day. The formerly peaceful sea had become a whirlpool of roaring winds and waves. Holding the helm with white knuckles, Jenkins struggled to maintain the Silver Crest's course. His face stung and his vision blurred as the rain fell into sheets. He was left in complete darkness as lightning flashed across the sky, briefly illuminating the chaos. One of these flashes was when Jenkins made a crucial error. He lost his balance when a rogue wave struck the boat side as he adjusted the sails. A second wave hit before he could react, sending him overboard into the turbulent sea after his hands had slipped from the rigging. His system was shocked by the cold water, which left him momentarily stunned. As he watched his boat float away, engulfed by the storm, he saw his head break the surface and gasp for air. Despite Jenkins's skill as a swimmer, the sea was cruel. He was tossed around like a rag doll by the waves, and despite his best efforts, he could not return to the boat. He screamed, but the storm's roar drowned out his words. Panic was beginning, but he knew he had to keep his strength to himself. He was tormented by the idea of passing away in this manner by himself in the middle of the sea. This felt different from the innumerable near-death experiences he had had over the years. This seemed decisive. Jenkins found himself adrift in the open ocean, holding on to a fragment of wreckage that had broken off his ship as the storm subsided and the sea calmed. Fatigue was beginning to set in, and his muscles hurt. But for the time being, he was still alive. Then he noticed something far away that made him feel extremely cold. A fin was slicing through the water and deliberately speeding toward him. Every sailor had heard the stories, including Jenkins. The oceanic white-tipped shark Carcharinus longimanus was infamous among pilots and shipwreck survivors. Unlike other more cautious sharks, the white-tipped shark was an opportunist known to attack survivors stranded in the open ocean. The sight of the fin circling closer made Jenkins' heart race, despite his efforts to remain composed. He floated as still as possible, hoping the shark would become disinterested because he knew flailing would only draw it in. However, the shark continued to circle, occasional glimpses of its pale body showing through the surface. Jenkins lacked a weapon and a defense mechanism. He only had the will to live. The initial blow was unexpected. When the shark struck him from below, it knocked the debris from his hands and sank him to the bottom. The shark persisted despite Jenkins' desperate attempts to surface with his kicks. He screamed in agony as it bit down on his leg, the salt water scorching the wound and the surrounding water becoming hazy with blood. He thrashed desperately, punching at the shark's snout to break free. The shark released its grip and circled back as if assessing its prey before striking again. He was bleeding heavily, and Jenkins knew it. The cold sea mixed with the warmth of his blood. He had trouble staying conscious, and his vision became blurry. The shark returned, its jaws widened, and its speed increased. Jenkins was too weak to resist it. He felt the jagged teeth ripping through his flesh as it clamped down on his side. There was no one to hear his cries as they reverberated into the vast emptiness of the ocean. The silver crest had long since vanished from view, and the storm had forced any nearby ships well off course. Jenkins put forth his best effort, but it was in vain. Because of its refined instincts from millions of years of evolution, the shark was unrelenting. As a predator, it was ideal, and Jenkins was just its next meal. His mind wandered to Eleanor, who was waiting for him in Durban as the life left him. His promise to her that this would be his final trip was fulfilled, but not in the manner he had hoped. His body went limp, and like innumerable sailors before him, he was lost to the ocean. The Silver Crest was discovered abandoned and adrift days later, shocking the maritime community. A legend among sailors, Captain Robert Jenkins's disappearance became the subject of naval folklore. The official report stated that he was lost at sea, but people familiar with the ocean and the living creatures realized how dire the situation was. His tale became a warning to sailors, reminding them that no matter how seasoned they were, the sea and its predators were uncontrollable forces. In 2007, the familiar chill of autumn pervaded the air over England's southern coast. The port town of Dover, well known for its striking white cliffs, was teeming with residents and visitors. Because of the difficulty of navigating the English Channel, a dangerous 21-mile stretch of chilly, erratic waters that connects England and France, the town has long been a center for endurance swimmers. An ambitious endurance swimmer named Kate Harper had been training here off the coast of Dover for months. She wanted to swim the entire length of the channel, something very few people could do. The 32-year-old Bristol native Kate had always been an open-water swimmer. Although she had practiced in rivers, lakes, and even the frigid North Sea, the English Channel was far more challenging. The currents were strong, the waters were infamously choppy, and the temperatures could drop as low as 12 degrees Celsius. This was the ultimate test of Kate's mental and physical stamina. She was aware of the dangers, which included fatigue, disorientation, and hypothermia, but she was unaware of the hidden danger. The sea was abnormally calm on this gray, cloudy morning in late October. As usual, Kate had left early from Shakespeare Beach, a well-liked starting point for channel swimmers. With her muscles warmed from months of intense training, she swam steadily. Her strokes had a natural rhythm, and the cold water no longer stung as it had. She was well conditioned. An hour into her swim, Kate became aware of something strange. She caught a glimpse of a dark shadow moving beneath her out of the corner of her eye. Her first thought was that it was a trick of the light, maybe a school of fish or seaweed floating with the tide. Then she noticed it again, but it was clearer and closer this time. It was a fin cutting through the water at a terrifying rate. In these waters, mako sharks were uncommon but not unheard of. Climate change-induced ocean warming has started to change migratory patterns, pushing predators like the mako shark further north than they typically do. The fin that was now circling her was visible. It was deadly sleek and too close for comfort. Although she struggled to maintain her composure, panic shot through her. As someone who had always taken pride in her understanding of marine life, Kate knew sharks typically had no interest in people. But there was something different about this one. It was rapidly approaching rather than just going by. Before she could respond, she experienced a sharp pain in her thigh. After biting her, the shark's incredibly sharp teeth sliced through her wetsuit and into her flesh. Kate's training began. Her leg ached, but she knew she couldn't allow fear to stop her. She twisted in the water and struck out at the shark's face with all the strength she could muster after reading that the shark's eyes and gills were its most vulnerable parts. For a brief moment, the creature flinched as her fist struck its eye, leaving it confused. The shark backed off, but Kate knew it wouldn't last long. The water surrounding her was now stained by blood oozing from the wound in her thigh. She needed to exit the water quickly. She started swimming toward the coast, adrenaline pumping through her veins. Her injured leg was slowing her down with each stroke, but she forced herself to push through the pain. Before, the shoreline seemed so close, but now it seemed so far away. Kate had no idea that a small fishing boat was just over the next wave. The crew noticed the unusual commotion in the water from local fishermen who had been fishing since dawn. One of them initially spotted her, Alaric Rick Tilling, a seasoned fisherman. He saw the distinct outline of a swimmer through his binoculars, flailing in the water and trailing a trail of red. Rick called out to the others without hesitation, and they turned their boat to her. As they got closer, they could see the blood, the frightened, pale face, and the distinctive fin that had started to circle once more. At once, the fisherman took action. Leaning over the side of the boat, Rick reached out to Kate, who was now struggling to stay afloat. They pulled her aboard using a combination of brute force and desperation after she grabbed hold with her remaining strength. Gasping for breath, Kate collapsed onto the deck, her leg a bloody mess. The fishermen knew they had to act quickly, but none had medical training. To stop the bleeding, one of them, a strong man named Fergus, ripped off his jacket and tied it tightly around her thigh like a makeshift tourniquet. Another snatched up the first aid kit they had on board and did their best to apply pressure to the wound. After hearing reports of a potential shark sighting close to the coast, Rick radioed the Coast Guard, who were already en route. While they waited for assistance, Kate lay on the deck trembling violently. Despite the severe pain in her leg, she was thankful to be still alive. Within minutes, the Coast Guard arrived and airlifted her to Dover's closest hospital. The doctors there moved swiftly to clean the wound and stabilize her condition. Although the shark had bitten deeply, it had not reached the main arteries, and because the fishermen acted quickly, Kate's life was no longer in imminent danger. Kate's story quickly gained traction in the following days. Reporters covered the terrifying tale of the endurance swimmer who had escaped a shark attack in the English Channel. The incident reignited discussions concerning how climate change affects marine life, especially the changing migratory patterns of predators like the mako shark. According to experts, more encounters like Kate's may occur due to warmer waters. It was a life-altering experience for Kate. Although she would eventually get better from her wounds, the attack's psychological effects persisted. Although she had always respected the ocean, she realized how dangerous and erratic it could be. She refused to let fear define her despite the trauma. After months of intensive rehabilitation, she returned to the water to swim again, but this time she was more conscious of the ocean's strength and the delicate balance of life there. Kate Harper's story was a sobering reminder of the dangers of pushing oneself and the dynamic nature of our world. where even the most seasoned swimmers can be caught off guard by uncontrollable circumstances. Off the coast of the Eastern Cape, South Africa, the yearly sardine run was underway in the summer of 2005. It was regarded as one of the world's most spectacular marine events, drawing sharks, dolphins, and birds from miles around, as the enormous schools of sardines migrated northward along the coast. Experienced wildlife photographer Liam O'Sullivan saw it as the ideal chance to document the unadulterated splendor of the natural world. He was committed to capturing the majesty and chaos of the ocean's predators in their natural habitat, so he equipped himself with his underwater camera equipment. Liam had been at Port St. John's just days earlier, a town famous for its rocky cliffs and wild coastline. The city always had a sense of danger, even though it was known as a destination for thrill-seekers and daring divers. Bronze whaler sharks, among other predators, have been known to inhabit the waters off the coast. That was just part of the excitement for the majority of divers. Liam saw it as an essential calculated risk if he wanted to get the ideal shot. On the morning of the dive, Liam boarded a small boat under the command of a local fisherman with his diving partner Etienne Roux, a marine biologist and longtime friend from Cape Town. In addition to the water's shimmering, almost deceptive calm, the sky was clear. But beneath the surface, the sardine run was going strong. The sardines were herded to the surface by dolphins as they darted through the water, while fish moved like a shimmering silver wall. Seabirds swooped from above, diving into the frenzy. It was a scene of both beauty and chaos, and Liam couldn't wait to get in. Submerged, the world was different. It felt like you were in the center of a living, breathing thing because of how active the water was and how the sardines moved in unison. As Liam focused his camera, he captured dolphins mid-hunt, their streamlined bodies precisely slicing through the water. His strobes illuminated the underwater scene, creating a surreal scene with dark shadows and silver scales. However, amidst the thriving marine life, something darker lurked. Unbeknownst to Liam, a bronze whale shark had entered the fray. The shark was hunting, not herding sardines like the dolphins and birds. And in confusion, it had taken Liam for prey. Attracted by the noise and the camera equipment's electric pulses, the shark started to circle. Before noticing it, Liam sensed a change in the water pressure, a ripple that caused the hairs on the back of his neck to stand straight up. The shark was charging when he turned. It was too quick and abrupt. The shark's strong jaws clamped down the arm that held the camera. Although the pain was sudden and intense, the shock of the attack temporarily paralyzed him. As it thrashed, attempting to rip away what it believed to be food, the shark's rough skin brushed against him. The urge took over, and Liam did it. He started shooting out flashes of light after recalling the strobes. The shark lost its focus due to the flashes and let go. This gave Liam a valuable few seconds to reposition himself as the animal hesitated, bewildered by the sudden blinding light. The wound on his arm was not as deep as it could have been, but it was still bleeding. However, the threat was still very much present. Seeing the assault from a few meters away, Etienne hurried over with a long metal pole used to guide marine life. Even though the shark hovered far away, still hungry and curious, they could repel it together. Liam could feel the adrenaline pumping through his veins as they slowly and methodically signaled to one another to go higher. They both knew that panic would only make matters worse. Their boat was waiting as they came to the surface. The captain, a man who had witnessed many near misses, assisted them in pulling them on board. Despite the blood and torn wetsuit on his arm, Liam was still alive. Etienne wrapped the wound and applied pressure to stop the bleeding as soon as possible to provide first aid. Since there was no longer any immediate danger, the pain started to set in. After getting on board, Liam sat quietly, gazing out at the water. Like all wildlife photographers worth their salt, he knew the dangers. But being aware of and facing the threat were two entirely different things. The fact that the ocean was both beautiful and dangerous was something he had to confront today. Following Liam's more extensive medical care on shore, the incident generated discussion among the diving community. Although the attack wasn't new, it did raise concerns about the sardine run safety procedures. To increase diver safety, Liam and Etienne discussed equipment changes that could prevent sharks from mistaking divers for prey. Strobe lights had worked to disorient the shark, but it was a temporary fix, not a solution. Liam's dive photos became some of his most renowned images in the following weeks. The pictures showed the intensity of the sardines running in the ocean's unadulterated energy, and the complex dance between predator and prey. But behind each shot was the memory of the shark, the flash of teeth, and the moment when the line between observer and participant blurred. For Liam, the encounter was a reminder of the delicate balance between man and nature. It was a near miss with a very different outcome. It further stoked his desire to keep recording the wild, even if it meant putting himself in danger again. After all, Liam O'Sullivan believed that the reward outweighed the risk, a necessary part of the job. In August 2010, a hot and windy afternoon occurred in Crescent Beach, Florida, a small coastal town. The beach extended for miles along the Atlantic, attracting locals and visitors. Families were splashing in the warm, shallow waters on this particular day, which was unusually crowded. Laughter, the slapping of waves against the coast, and the distant cries of seagulls circling overhead interrupted the ocean's rhythmic hum. The town's economy depended heavily on fishing and tourism, and had a long history with the sea. However, the water's serene beauty was not all that was hidden beneath the surface. 10-year-old Jason Miller, a local boy with blonde hair and a passion for the sea, spent his afternoon at the water's edge doing what he loved best, creating intricate sandcastles. His parents, Erica and Noah Miller, were oblivious to the danger only a few feet away from their son as they watched from the comfort of their beach chairs while engaging in casual conversation. There were no significant shark sightings in years, and Crescent Beach had always been a family-friendly destination. The ocean, however, was erratic. It had begun as any other day would have. The Millers had prepared a cooler with sunscreen snacks and beach towels for their weekend getaway. Jason begged his parents to hurry up so he could get into the water, because he had been so excited all morning. In the middle of the afternoon, he had already spent hours diving beneath the waves, gathering seashells and wading in and out. However, as the tide rose, another object approached the coast. A tiny black-tipped shark was swimming just below the surface, about 4 feet long. As it pursued food, it followed its instincts and was attracted to the swimmers' thrashing and splashing. Jason didn't realize the shark was hiding in the darkened water just a few feet away. The boy was too engrossed in his sandcastle, his bare feet occasionally dipping into the surf, to notice anything unusual. Suddenly, Jason felt a sharp sting on his right foot. He initially believed that he had stepped on a sharp shell or a piece of glass, but the pain was unheard of in his existence. Looking down, he saw the shark's sleek gray body dart away in a split second, leaving a tiny blood trail in the water. He screamed his cries, cutting through the typical beach noises as panic swept through him. Hearts racing, Erica and Noah jump out of their seats and run for the water. Trevor Hicks, an older lifeguard, had been watching the beach idly until Jason screamed at him to get him to act. He ran down the beach while blowing his whistle and indicating to the other swimmers with his arms. When Jason's parents arrived first, they dragged him out of the shallow water where his blood had mingled with the wave foam. Even though it was bleeding, his foot only had minor puncture wounds. The shark had swum away, most likely bewildered or uninterested in the boy. Trevor was by their side at times with his lifeguard gear in hand. As they watched in disbelief, many beachgoers pulled back from the water, not understanding what had happened. In an attempt to soothe Jason, Erica trembled and held onto his shoulders. Pale with fear, Noah knelt by his son's foot as Trevor quickly assessed the injury. The bite, while painful, wasn't deep. Jason had been lucky, very lucky. The shark hadn't seen him as prey. It had likely made a mistake thinking he was something else. Within minutes, paramedics arrived, summoned by a quick call from another lifeguard. Jason was bandaged up and taken to a nearby hospital for further examination, but everyone knew he would be all right. The doctors confirmed it was a minor injury that would heal quickly. The incident, however, sent shockwaves through the town. Crescent Beach had always been a haven where families could relax without fear of the dangers lurking beneath the waves. However, Jason's experience was a harsh reminder that the ocean was not a controlled environment. Sharks, while rarely aggressive towards humans, were still a part of the ecosystem. even in shallow waters. In the days following the attack, local authorities took swift action. More lifeguards were stationed along the beach, and patrols on jet skis kept a closer eye on the shoreline. The town council held meetings to discuss safety measures, and signs were posted warning swimmers of the potential presence of sharks. Marine biologists were brought in to educate the public about shark behavior, explaining that attacks like Jason's were rare and usually accidental. For Jason, the experience became a badge of honor. While his parents remained shaken for weeks, he quickly bounced back, showing off his bandaged foot to his friends and recounting the story with fear and pride. The town too recovered, though the incident lingered in the minds of many. Crescent Beach was still beautiful and fun, but everyone knew how to respect the ocean and its mysteries more. Ultimately, the Miller family remained grateful that things hadn't been worse. Jason's close call served as a wake-up call for the Millers and the entire community. In the summer of 2008, the Gulf of Mexico shimmered under the intense heat of a July sun. The warm waters near the Florida Panhandle were known for their abundant marine life, particularly sharks. This diverse ecosystem was a hotspot for scientific research and was renowned for its unpredictability. While the Gulf attracted fishermen and tourists, it had long served as a natural laboratory for scientists eager to understand the secrets of its apex predators. Dr. Nina Patel, a renowned marine biologist specializing in shark conservation, has dedicated her career to uncovering the behavior patterns of these often misunderstood creatures. Born in Ottawa, Canada, Nina traveled the world extensively for years, studying marine life. Now, as lead scientist for the Gulf Predator Behavior Initiative, she was stationed aboard the research vessel Aqua Prism, roughly 10 miles off the coast of Destin, Florida. Joining Nina was her trusted team: Mark Renshaw, a logistical expert and field technician; Helena Duarte, a data analyst with a knack for staying calm under pressure; and Ravi Daswani, a seasoned diver responsible for handling the underwater tagging equipment. Together, they had one mission: tag a population of bull sharks to study their migration patterns and feeding habits. The team worked tirelessly at sea for 4 days in the sweltering heat. Their objective for the day was ambitious: tag 5 bull sharks with satellite transmitters. With the Gulf's waters murky from stirred-up sediments, visibility could have been better, adding a layer of difficulty to their operation. By midday, the Aqua Prism was anchored near an area frequented by bull sharks. Using a bait line to attract the predators, the team spotted their first shark, a 10-foot bull, its muscular body easily cutting through the water. Nina watched closely as Ravi prepared the tagging pole, ensuring the transmitter was secure. The shark glided closer to the bait, its movements calculated but wary. After a successful tag, the team's spirits lifted. They repeated the process with 2 more sharks who displayed varying degrees of resistance but ultimately swam away unharmed with transmitters securely attached. However, it was the 4th shark, later named Gamma 12, for identification that would test their limits. Gamma 12 was visibly larger than the others they had encountered that day, with a distinct scar running across its dorsal fin. It seemed agitated as it approached the bait line, and its movements were more erratic than expected. The team noted this, but time was of the essence, and Nina insisted on proceeding. Positioning herself at the boat's edge, Nina took the tagging pole from Ravi. She precisely extended the pole toward the shark, aiming for the thick muscle near its dorsal fin. Gamma 12, however, suddenly surged forward, breaching the surface in a violent burst of energy. Before Nina could react, its jaws clamped down on her left hand. The scene erupted into chaos. Nina pulled her hand back instinctively, blood dripping onto the deck as Mark and Helena rushed to her side. The shark thrashed briefly before swimming away, its aggression subsiding as quickly as it had appeared. Ravi hauled the bait line out of the water to prevent further incidents. Helena, keeping her composure, grabbed the first aid kit while Mark fashioned a makeshift tourniquet using a section of rope and a towel. Even though Nina was pale and clearly in pain, she kept her composure and led her team to ensure the shark was safely away from the boat. She emphasized that despite the chaos, it is crucial to limit harm to Gamma 12. Given the extent of Nina's injuries, the team made an emergency call to the closest Coast Guard station. Within minutes, a rescue helicopter was dispatched to their location. As they awaited evacuation, Ravi stayed on deck to monitor the waters, ensuring no other sharks were drawn to the commotion. When the helicopter arrived, Nina was carefully hoisted aboard on a stretcher. Mark and Helena accompanied her while Ravi stayed behind to secure the equipment and steer the Aqua Prism back to shore. Surgeons at the hospital painstakingly repaired Nina's hand. The bite had fractured several bones and caused nerve damage, but the medical team was optimistic about her recovery. Over the next few weeks, Nina underwent intensive physical therapy. Her determination was unwavering, and she often joked with her team about how she had finally gotten close enough to a shark for a real hands-on study. Despite the humor, the incident served as a sobering reminder of the inherent risks in their line of work. Nina reviewed footage of the encounter with her team at the research facility. They identified subtle behavioral cues from Gamma-12 that had been overlooked at the moment, signs of agitation likely caused by environmental stressors and the team's proximity. Determined to turn the ordeal into a learning experience, Nina collaborated with her colleagues to develop enhanced safety protocols for future tagging missions. Additionally, the incident spurred broader discussions about striking a balance between research and animal welfare within the scientific community. Nina started to speak out in favor of better tools and training to reduce hazards to researchers and marine life. Despite her injuries, Nina remained passionate about her work. A year later, she returned to the Gulf with a more robust plan and a renewed respect for her subject's unpredictable nature. Her encounter with Gamma-12 became a case study highlighting the thin line between discovery and danger in the quest to understand the natural world. In the end, Nina's resolve and commitment to conservation remained unshaken, proving that the pursuit of knowledge could thrive even in the face of adversity.